All right, so in this lesson we're going to be talking about order of operations primarily, but I also want to explain what exponents are just as a quick review. Powers are made up of a base and an exponent. So this whole thing right here is considered a power, where 4 is the base and 3 is the exponent. Now what the exponent does, it just tells us how many times we're multiplying the base together. So 4 times 3 is the same, or 4 to the third power is the same as 4 times 4 times 4. So if I use my calculator, I'm going to bring up a calculator. I'm going to be referencing this calculator quite a bit. So if I do 4 and then this button, a to the b, we can put any power we want in there. 4 to the third power is 64, and then we can also check it as 4 times 4 times 4 also is equal to 64. So it's kind of a simplified way if we need to multiply numbers together of the same base. Okay, so that being said, we know what powers are and exponents and how those relate, because in order of operations, that is our second rule that we have to follow. So order of operations, when we do, when we're solving an expression, which is what we're going to be doing today, you have to follow these orders specifically within the problem. You can't just go left to right and say, oh, I'm going to add this to 4 because it'll come out wrong. Like, there is a hierarchy of how you have to compute stuff. If we put it into our calculator, it will do it for us, which I'm going to show you, but I'm also going to show you the long way, which you have probably been taught before, but just we're going to review. So your first step is you have to do any type of grouping symbol. That includes parentheses, absolute value, which we're going to be covering in a couple days, any type of bracket. These are all kind of the same. So if there's something within these, you have to do that first. After you get rid of all your brackets when you're doing those problems, then you simplify any powers that you might have, going from left to right. After you simplify any powers, what's left is any multiplication or division, and then any adding or subtracting would be your final step. So in this example right here, what we did first, 6 minus 3, was inside of these grouping symbols, so I simplified that first. So you can see from here to here, I did the parentheses first. 6 minus 3 is 3, and I bring down everything else. The 4 comes down plus 4 times 2 minus 2. Next thing we would do, since there's no more grouping symbols, would be any type of power. So I would do 3 to the 4th power. So if I did 3 to the 4th power, again on my calculator, I would have to do 3 to the 4th, and it gives me 81. Of course it's 81 because this is an example and I already gave it to you. So this is powers right here. So we got 81 here, everything else is the same. Now I have to multiply or divide from left to right because there's no more parentheses, there's no more powers. So within this is 8 plus 4, no. 4 times 2, yes. 2 minus 2, no. So 4 times 2 would be my next step. So I multiplied here, the 4, 2, and that's how I get my 8. All right, and now all we're left with is adding or subtracting. So again, from left to right, I do 81 plus 8. That would be my first step, which gives me 89. And then obviously we subtract at the end to get our final answer. So go ahead and pause right here. See if you can follow the orders of operations for this problem. Okay, so if we're going to start, we have to look for any type of grouping symbols, and there's one right here, 6 plus 3, which would be 9. So I put down the 9, and I bring down everything else in this problem. This would be to the 5th power times 4 plus 2 times 5. Now since the grouping symbols are gone, I'm going to simplify powers. So I'm going to do 9 to the 5th power. So let's see what that is. So 9 to the 5th power gives us 59,049. So 59,000. And I bring down everything else. This is this. So I multiply by 4, add 2 times 5. Now I'm going from left to right. So I would multiply this times 4. Let's go back to our calculator. I wonder if I can just, I'm going to multiply that times 4. So I'm just going to put a times 4 here since we already have it. Times 4. We get 236,196. Let's see if I can just split this right here. There we go. That'll be easier. I don't have to go back and forth now. So this would be 236,196 plus 2 times 4. Now I did one multiplication problem from left to right. There is a second one. So we have this plus 2 times 4. We're not going to do this plus 2. We're going to do the 2 times 4, which would be 8. Plus 236,196. All right, so we add 8 to that. So over here, I am just going to put a plus 8 since I already have it up here. Plus 8, and that increases it by 8 for us. So we have 236,204. All right, so I showed you a way to do this the long way. All right, again, you've probably seen this before in previous math lessons in pre-algebra or anything like that. So these would be practice problems of how we would do order of operation. However, if you do use your calculator, you put it in correctly, that's good too. So I really want to practice putting it in the calculator as well and not just showing our operations. Okay, so I'm actually going to use the calculator for these to get my answer. So I'm going to split screen again, and I'm going to type these in exactly as I see it. So this is a calculator practice day. So I do 6 minus 10 divided by 5. All right, so look at that. It even gives us like, hey, I'm going to divide first on that, and that equals 4. So if I do order of operations on here, let me see if this is a calculator error or if this actually works. We may have to adjust on our calculator. In this case, I do 10 divided by 5, which is 2, bring down the minus, and the 6. 6 minus 2, 4. Yep, so no, we got the right answer. It looks like kind of funky because it has this, but this is the way that it shows division on this particular calculator, so that's okay. All right, so our next problem on B, go ahead and type this into your calculator and then see if you get the same answer as me. Pause it here. So I'm going to type it in exactly as I see it. 3 times 6 minus 4 to the second power divided by, oops, I don't want to do that because I need to get off of that, divided by 2. All right, that gives us 10. So 10 is our answer. Let's see if I do it the long way if it's correct. So I have 3 times 6, 4 squared is 16, minus 16 divided by 2. Left to right, 3 times 6, 18 minus 16 divided by 2. 16 divided by 2, that gives us an 8. 8, bring that down, 18 minus 8, and that is 10. All right, we are on pace, cranking along. All right, so go ahead. We're not going to check these now. Again, as long as it looks like it does in this picture. Obviously, with divided by, it's going to put it under a fraction for this calculator, but your calculator that you're using at home might be a little bit different. So I'm going to type this in. 4 times 7 plus 4 divided by, and then I have to do 2 to the second power. So 2 to the second power. 29 is our answer. And then here, 5 to the third power. I love how it shows you the answers as you're going. This is a fun calculator. All right, I'm going to hit the right arrow. So now I'm not on that exponent. I'm going to add 90, and I'm dividing that by 10. Order of operation would have us do this first and then divide that. So we get 134 as our answer. All right, so again, on the next page of your notes, there are 2 more problems that we are going to practice. So now we have some parentheses in here. So let's see how we do with that. Over here, I'm going to use these parentheses buttons. So parenthesis, 5 plus 3, close off the parenthesis, divided by 2. plus, now I'm going to do the right arrow, plus parentheses 5 to the second power, do the right arrow again, minus 3, and then close out your parenthesis. And that gives us 26. Now what you noticed here is good to point out. When I did the divided by 2 and then plus, that is kind of its own separate problem. That plus is separating. It's not, you're not adding that to the 2, so you will have to move that arrow when you're doing divisions or adding to it, because if it had me adding on the bottom, that would be like a separate grouping symbol. So that is one issue with this calculator. I think what could make it a little bit difficult for you guys. But if we understand that we don't have the plus this on the bottom of the fraction, then you should be okay. All right, so again, we'll see it again with division here. So we can actually group these two together, which is fine. So I do 8, and then I'm dividing by this grouping. So now this grouping I can keep underneath. 9 minus 7. So that grouping's done though. So now I have to add. So I'm going to hit my right arrow so that I'm out here. Plus, and then I'm going to group these two together. 13 divided by 2. Close off that. Whoops. I'm going to close off that parenthesis. And I get 10.5 as my answer. All right, so this is your work for today, and the assignment that goes along with it is going to be a lot of calculator practice. So be careful. Whenever you hit divide, whatever the next number is, you can keep at the bottom of that fraction if you're using this decimals calculator, but then hit your right arrow to start a new grouping of numbers. If you do that, you should be fine to be able to type these in and get your answers.